leans hard into moral outrage. Viewers feel immediate sympathy for a woman who's clawed back her life, only to have her abuser-tormentor weaponize her past at the moment she's most vulnerable. Sets up strong rooting interest. Some ghosts don't haunt, they wait. She adjusted the veil once more, though it didn't need fixing. Her fingers just needed something to do. Something quiet, something useless. The chapel smelled of roses pressed too tightly together, like a secret someone tried too hard to sweeten. A string quartet murmured in the corner. Someone whispered, "She looks like her mother," and that did it, the flicker behind her ribs. A breath too deep. A memory too loud. When she was 7, she found a man crying behind the organ pipes of this very church. He smelled like firewood and rust, and when he saw her, he said, "I don't belong here, do I?" Then disappeared like dust in a sunbeam. The officiant cleared his throat. The aisle stretched like a tightrope. Her dress shimmered ivory, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking, not from nerves, no. It was something colder. Beneath the lace, her skin crawled. She looked to the front pew where her mother sat rigid, lips pressed into a line so tight it could slice fruit dot, and then she saw him. Back row. Last pew. Alone. The suit didn't match the wedding creased. The wrong shade of black, the tie undone like he'd lost the fight halfway through getting dressed. But the worst part wasn't his clothes. It was his eyes. He was already watching. Her, not admiring, not proud. Watching like someone counting seconds before a storm hits. A violin string snapped mid-note. Her breath caught. 1 heartbeat. 2. Then the music resumed, but softer now, like it didn't want to be noticed. She blinked. Maybe she imagined him, but when she looked again, he mouthed her name. Not her married name, her maiden name. The one no one had said in years. She forgot how to walk. Every step down the aisle felt like stepping backward, through time. Through dirt, through the things they swore they buried. Her bouquet trembled. The lily brushed her wrist white, too white. Like mourning in disguise, her fiancé smiled, the kind that should have calmed her. It didn't. His hands waited for hers. Her eyes drifted back. To the man. To the wrongness of him. To the truth he carried in the lines on his face. Years ago, someone told her all the men in her father's side died before 50. Except one. The black sheep. The one who vanished the year she was born. Her mother never said his name, just called him what we don't talk about. And now here he was, sitting like he belonged to no one. Like he came not to witness but to watch something unravel. Heartbeat. His hand slid into his coat pocket. Her grip tightened on the flowers. Later, no one could recall what the officiant said next. Not even her. The words were cotton and water. Heavy, muffled, drowning something. Then soft as dust he spoke. "Miss Evelyn Marie Lorne," he said it aloud, not shouted. Not whispered. Just enough. The room twisted. Aunt Linda's hand flew to her mouth. The violinist stopped playing altogether. Her mother stood her heel catching on the carpet like she'd been stabbed by her own shadow. The man rose from the pew. Every guest turned. Like birds startled by thunder. And Evelyn? She didn't faint. Didn't scream. She smiled. Just slightly. Because she understood in that second what he meant. Not just her name, but what followed it. A history written in margins. A childhood built on unspoken pacts and burnt photographs. "I told you," her mother hissed through clenched teeth. "I told you he was gone." "But he wasn't," Evelyn whispered. "You just erased him." He walked toward the aisle, not fast, not slow. Like someone attending a funeral. Her mother stepped forward. "Get out. You don't belong here." But the man didn't flinch. Didn't speak. He pulled something from his coat. A photograph. Faded. Water damaged. Bent at the corners. Evelyn could barely make it out until it reached her hands. 2 children. A boy holding a newborn. A woman in the background, blurred by motion. She looked up. "I held you first," he said. voice rough as gravel. "Before she took you from all of us." Behind her, someone knocked over a candle holder. Heat bloomed through her spine. The guests were no longer whispering. They were staring. Her fiance's jaw was tight. Her mother was pale, and Evelyn? She was on fire, because she remembered the photo. Not from the image, but from the tear on the corner. She had found it once, hidden behind a drawer's false bottom. Her mother said it was nothing. Threw it in the fireplace, but ashes don't lie. She turned to the man. "Who are you really?" He paused. A flicker of something, pain, regret, passed across his eyes. "I'm the reason you survived. When your father died, you ran. I buried the truth." The silence after that wasn't empty. It was brim-full. She could feel the whole church leaning in. Her hand reached for her fiance's, but stopped mid-her. Because now she wasn't sure what hand she needed. She looked at her mother. And for the first time in years, she didn't see steel. She saw a woman afraid, cornered, a mother holding a secret so long it had reshaped her spine. "You lied," Evelyn said. Tears welled up but didn't fall. "Sometimes," her mother whispered, "love means hiding what would destroy them." "And sometimes," Evelyn answered, "it means letting them choose what destroys them." The man set the photograph on the pew. "I just came to give you back your name." Then he turned, like a shadow retreating from candlelight. He didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't offer more, and no one stopped him. A pause stretched. Then the officiant cleared his throat again, but Evelyn couldn't move. The bouquet slipped from her hands and landed softly on the chapel floor, scattering lily like broken promises. "If justice still matters, you'll want the next page." He found her. And he wants her to pay. It takes 7 years to be legally forgotten, but some memories refuse to expire. The fire hadn't reached the old mailbox, but she watched it anyway, melting into itself, paint bubbling, numbers slipping like skin. Off Bone, 412 Rosebend Lane. Her real name still echoed in that charred little number. Evelyn Marie Lorne, burned alive and reborn in the space between 2 exit signs on the highway. She'd driven with no headlights for an hour, kept her foot just under the speed limit. The license said Emily Carter now. The social too. Her voice trembled the first time she answered to it. The name sat in her mouth like a lie too familiar to spit out. The motel room that night smelled like bleach and old secrets. She slept with her shoes on. 6 years later, her hands still curled under the pillow when she dreamed. The old reflex, gripping for the flash drive. The last piece of her father's sins, and the only thing she didn't burn. It lay hidden inside a hollowed-out candle in the garage. Lavender-scented secrecy. "Morning, love," Daniel mumbled into her hair, his arms warm around her waist. She smiled, automatic, practiced, kissed the stubble on his cheek. Coffee was already brewing. He always set the timer for her. Always left one mug out. Always with the same chipped handle turned her way. Normal, she thought. Safe, soft edges, and steady breath. But she hadn't slept, not since the man in the back pew said her name aloud. Not since the past clawed its way into the chapel. Like a man half made of ash. She opened the kitchen drawer, found the spoon she always used, bent at the neck from an old garbage disposal accident. She traced it with her thumb. Like counting scars. Heartbeat. Daniel entered, tying his tie. "You okay? You seem off." She blinked, swallowed the truth. "Just wedding nerves, I think." But her reflection in the window betrayed her. There was something in her eyes now. Something feral. The animal look of someone waiting for the trap to snap shut. He handed her a slice of toast. "Hey, whatever it is, I'm here. You know that, right?" She nodded, bit into the toast, but the bread turned to dust in her mouth. Because what would he say if he knew that the man who showed up at their wedding wasn't just some drifter? He was blood. And blood has a long memory that she'd been running not from a crime, but from a family. And worse, what if Daniel wasn't the only one who'd seen that stranger? She checked her phone, no missed calls. No new messages, except one. Blocked number. Tell him, and I'll send the photo. You know which one. She felt the floor fall, that photo, from the motel. Taken through the crack in the curtain. She didn't remember undressing, didn't remember the camera. But the scar on her hip showed clear as a confession. She deleted the message. But not before memorizing the threat. Heartbeat. She turned to Daniel. Watched him butter his toast. Watched the way his shoulders relaxed. When he felt safe. She used to think love was a shield. Now it felt like a hostage. You sure you're okay? He asked again. She set the coffee down too hard. It sloshed over the rim, staining the wedding invitation next to it. The ink bled into the parchment. Something inside her did too. I had a weird dream, she lied. About my old house. He looked up, interested. I always forget you're from. Where was it again? She forced a laugh. Small town. Doesn't even exist anymore. But it did. Rosebud had just erased her, that's all. She cleaned the coffee with a napkin, then folded the stained invitation in half and tossed it into the trash. The gesture felt like a prayer, or a dare. But she hadn't noticed what else was in the trash. Not until later. The torn corner of an old receipt. Not HERSA, gas station in Rosebud. Time-stamped 4 days ago. Her breath stopped. Daniel came back in, holding his keys. You still want to go to that tasting today? She smiled, but it cracked around the edges. I'll meet you there. He left, whistling. She pulled the receipt. From the trash. Not from her wallet. Not from her timeline. There was a mark on the back. A small cross drawn in blue pen. He was here. Not just at the wedding. He'd been closer. Days before. Maybe in the house. Maybe touching their life like it was a museum exhibit. Looking for something. Or someone. She rushed to the garage. Yanked open the candle. Still there. Flash drive, still warm from the wax. She stared at it. At the weight it still carried. Her father's journals. Police transcripts. Names that had disappeared underwater and silence. If Daniel ever found it. No. She resealed the candle. Set it back. But not before placing it on the shelf above the toolbox. Different spot. A test. If it moved again, she'd know. Heartbeat. Back. Inside, she heard her phone. Vibrate. Another message. No words this time. Just the photo. She dropped the phone like it burned. Because in the corner of the image, barely visible in the motel mirror, was the face of someone she thought had died in. That fire. Her uncle. Alive. Watching her. Again. She fell against the counter. Hands trembling. The truth was lava now. Buried, but moving. Because if her uncle was alive, then so was the reason she ran. The man with hands that looked like her father's. The man who made promises and broke girls. She thought she'd burned that house to the ground. But ashes don't always stay dead. Her wedding dress hung in the hallway. Still zipped in plastic. She stared at it. So clean. So white, like it belonged to someone who never had to run. If he tells Mark the truth, she lose everything. What's the sound of a secret arriving? A soft thud in the letterbox. She almost didn't hear it. The morning was quiet in that heavy suburban way. Too clean, too trimmed, windless. The kind of day that makes you forget the world has edges. Daniel had already left for work, his side of the bed still warm when she stirred. She poured coffee, humming something tuneless, barefoot on the tile. The wedding gifts were still half unwrapped, clustered like trophies for a life she wasn't sure she'd earned. And then there it was. A soft thud. Paper, nothing more. But she froze. Set the mug down, half full. Walked to the door like someone walking toward an edge they didn't know existed yesterday. Opened the slot. One envelope. No stamp. No return address. Just her name. Not her new one. Her real one. The one she'd buried with a house and a county line. Evelyn. Heartbeat. She closed the door with her back against it. Fingers shaking, she turned the envelope over. Cheap paper, hand-torn, not even sealed. Inside, one photo. A driver's license. Her old face, long hair. The scar still showing on her temple before she learned to cover it with foundation. And below it, handwritten in blocky red ink, I never stopped watching. Her knees buckled, but she didn't fall. The walls of the house pressed inward. The air felt like it didn't belong to her anymore. She ran to the windows, kitchen, locked. Living room locked. Bathroom locked. But the one in the guest bedroom was cracked half an inch. The one she always forgot. Her breath hitched as she slid it shut with a trembling hand. Outside, nothing moved. Not a single leaf. But something had moved, because on the windowsill, just barely there, was the mark of an old boot print. Dust broken. Heel dragging. She didn't scream. Screaming wouldn't help. No one would believe her. No one would understand, not even Daniel, especially not Daniel. She took the envelope, photo, and note, burned them in the sink with a match she struck too hard. The flame roared brighter than it should have, licking the metal faucet. She turned the water on too fast. Steam swallowed her face. She didn't cry, just stood there, soaked in heat and silence. The wedding band on her finger glinted. Love wasn't supposed to feel like this. A cage with good lighting. She sat on the edge of their couch, the one with soft suede and embroidered throw pillows she picked out to feel like home. One of the pillows slipped off and revealed a tiny crease in the fabric. Underneath, a stitched-over hole. She'd sewn it shut after Daniel's niece spilled nail polish. But now it looked like something else. A wound. A reminder that some things don't wash out. Just get covered. Heartbeat. Daniel texted, "How's your morning, love?" She stared at the words. Typed, "Good, quiet, just sorting some mail." Backspaced. Typed again. Peaceful. Lied. She lay back, staring at the ceiling. The fan spun overhead, slow and useless. The silence was unbearable. So she turned on music, something light. Old jazz, but even the saxophone sounded suspicious now. Like it was mourning something. The echo motif returned, soft thud. Again. She stood so fast the room spun. At the door, nothing, but then she saw it. Not in the mailbox, on the mat. Another envelope. This time folded into a triangle. Inside, a single note. Check the garage. She didn't want to, but she had to. Step by step. Barefoot, cold tile to colder concrete. She opened the garage door slowly, the creak louder than usual. Her eyes adjusted to the dim light. Nothing looked out of place. Except the candle. The lavender one. Hollowed. She ran to it. Pulled it down. The flash drive was gone. Her stomach clenched. Like being hit in a dream. She dropped to her knees, searching around the shelf, the floor. Nothing. Then her eyes caught it. A small piece of string red, tied around a nail leading to the garage attic ladder. She pulled the string. The ladder creaked open. She hesitated. A gust of air fell down like breath from a sleeping giant. Climbed in the attic. Nothing but dust, boxes, and a burner phone. Sitting on an old lawn chair like someone had just stepped out. It rang. Heartbeat. She didn't touch it. It rang again. She answered. She shouldn't have. But she did. Silence. Then a voice older than she remembered. Rougher, but unmistakable. "I gave you 6 years. You didn't use them well." Her hand tightened around the phone. "What do you want?" A pause. A sigh, almost sad. "To finish what we started. Before the fire." She swallowed, but it caught halfway. "You were supposed to die in that house," he said, "and instead you ran, just like your mother. Just like her sister." She couldn't breathe. "You killed her," Evelyn said. "You killed them both." "No," he said quietly. "I released them." She almost dropped the phone, but the photo hid something worse. In the corner of the attic, half buried in insulation, was a baby's sock, She hadn't lived here before. But he had, or someone had, and they brought something with them. You left something behind. She whispered. The voice didn't answer. She pulled the sock out with trembling fingers. Inside was a slip of paper. If Daniel knew what you did in Kansas, would he still love you? The line cut cleaner than any blade, because Kansas was the one. Words she never said aloud, not even to herself. There was something else. At the bottom of the note, a phone number. Same red ink, still ringing in her hand. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. There's a phone number scribbled in red ink, and it's ringing. The worst pain comes from paper. Thin, precise, easy to miss until the blood comes. The phone was still ringing. She stared at it on the table, silent as if staring back. Burned edges, red ink, that number stitched into her brain now. Her fingertip hovered, just above the green icon. One tap in the past could speak. One tap. She answered. For a moment, nothing. Breathing. Not rushed. Not erratic. Measured. Like someone watching a fire burn from across the street. Then the voice, soft, almost tender. Emily. She didn't respond. Couldn't. That name didn't fit in this moment. Neither did Evelyn. You don't have to say anything, he continued. I just wanted to hear your voice. It's been years. Her grip tightened. The silence pressed in. You sound the same, he added. Tired, but strong, like back then. A flicker, not memory, feeling. The weight of hospital sheets. A nurse's hand. The sound of her own voice saying, yes, I understand. But she hadn't. Not really. She said nothing. I know what they told you, he said. About her, about me, about why they made you sign. She flinched. Heartbeat. You think I was a monster, he murmured. They needed you to believe that. There it was again. Her, the word curved around a knife. A daughter that didn't exist. A child she had never accepted, though. Except there was a hallway. White and humming. Except there was a baby's cry. Except there were forms she didn't read. She had just turned 21. I came to the hospital, he said. They didn't let me see you. Said you changed your mind. That you wanted her gone. She pressed her fingers to her temples, as if pain could be pinched closed. I have a photo, he continued. Of her. After they placed her, I held it against my chest like it was mine. I still do. Her knees weakened. She sat. The walls of the kitchen blurred, the wedding invitations, the fridge notes, Daniel's to-do list. The note still hung there. Don't forget, cake tasting Friday, she blinked. The room snapped back into shape. Heartbeat. She looked like you, he whispered. You have the wrong person, she said. Her voice cracked on the last word. I never, but memory cuts cleaner than truth. The scar above her hip throbbed. She reached for her necklace, the small copper pendant shaped like a paper crane. A gift from her mother, passed down. A symbol, she'd been told, of hope. But folded hope is still a cage. She remembered holding it in that hospital bed. The nurse said, Do you want to hold her? She said no, Emily, the voice said again, gentler. Now, she asks about you. I told her maybe one day I'd find you. She shook her head. I didn't know. They made sure you wouldn't. Tears came, quiet, the kind you don't wipe away because you're not ready to admit they're real. But she still hadn't asked the one question that would split her open. What's her name? She whispered. A pause, then, Claire. She mouthed it, Claire. The sound tasted familiar and foreign. Like remembering a song from childhood but not the words. She's 11, likes drawing. She collects postcards from places she's never been. A sob caught in her chest. She asks why you never send any. Silence bloomed like blood in water. Then, I told her maybe you're not ready. That's what I tell myself too. I didn't leave her, she choked out. I was told, I know. That stopped. Her. I know. he said again, softer now. They told me things too. There it was, his wound, not anger. Not rage. Abandonment. The quiet kind. The kind that gets explained away by lawyers and signatures. She gripped the edge of the table. The paper crane pendant dug into her palm. What do you want from me? She asked. To see your face. She laughed harsh, bitter. Why now? Because. She asked to meet her mother, he said, and because. I didn't want you to learn about her in the worst way. A chill threaded up her spine. What do you mean? Another pause. And then, your new husband. The one who doesn't know about any of this. Her heart twisted. You love him? Yes. He love you? Yes. Would he still if he knew? Terror opened its mouth. I won't hurt him, the voice said. But I need you to understand. I lost everything once. I won't lose again. Then the shift. The softness hardened. You took my child from me, he whispered. Now I'll take yours. The day Sophie learned to draw hands was the day Emily stopped sleeping. It was the way her daughter drew them, large, oversized palms with fingers like knives, always reaching. Sophie called them safe hands. Said they were magic, said they'd come when she called. But all Emily saw were echoes. She'd stared at the crayon sketches for an hour after Sophie went to bed. Blue paper, white chalk lines, soft outlines. Of something meant to protect, but shaped like harm. She folded them up and hid them behind the spice rack. Next to the bottle of cinnamon she never touched. That night, she locked the doors twice. The next morning, she didn't take Sophie to daycare. Mark noticed. He didn't say anything at first. Just watched her move around the kitchen like a guest. In someone else's house, she stirred her coffee too long. Sophie played on the floor, humming, folding a napkin into the shape of a flower. Mark leaned against the counter. She misses her friends. She's tired. She's 5. Silence. She's safe here, Emily said finally, eyes not leaving the window. A squirrel darted across the fence. Even that made her jump. Safe from what? She didn't answer, because if she said it out loud, it would become real. That the man from the back pew was still watching, that the letters hadn't stopped, that every photo she hid got replaced with a new one. Heartbeat. Mark stepped closer. You've been off since the wedding. I'm just tired. I know you. This isn't tired. This is something else. She turned. His eyes searched her like he was trying to find the part of her that used to trust him. I just want our daughter safe, she whispered, but she wasn't sure anymore what safe looked like. Because the house had windows, and the locks were old, and ghosts didn't need keys. That night, after Sophie slept with the paper crane still clutched in her hand, Emily opened the attic box. The one she said she burned. She hadn't. Inside, layers of the life before, Polaroids, documents, a tiny pink sock. She held the sock like it might still carry warmth. Then the photo, folded in half, smudged with ash, a man, her uncle, holding a baby. The photo was time-stamped. October 3rd, a year after the fire. But that couldn't be right, because her baby was born in January, and she was told. Stillborn. The doctor said, I'm sorry, in that voice that meant don't ask. But the photo hid something worse. The man was smiling. Not forced. Not faked. Genuine. The baby was swaddled in a blanket with tiny yellow stars. The same pattern she remembered holding against her cheek in the hospital before they took her away. She checked the back. Claire. 8 pounds. 4 hours. She couldn't breathe. She wasn't sure if the baby in the photo was Claire or Sophie. No. Sophie had her chin, her curls, her laugh. But the photo fell from her hands. The paper crane in Sophie's hand had been folded the exact same way. She grabbed the baby book from the living room drawer, flipped to Sophie's hospital bracelet. Same birth date. But the handwriting, it didn't match. The nurse's name was wrong. The ink was too dark. Like someone traced over it. Heartbeat. She heard a sound. The front door. Mark. She shoved everything into the kitchen drawer just as he stepped in. He looked at her like someone watching a candle burn too close to the curtain. What aren't you telling me? She forced a smile. What do you mean? I mean, you don't look at Sophie the same way anymore. You look scared. Of her. Of me. Of the mirror. I'm not. He moved closer. I know about the letters. She froze. You left one in your coat. I didn't read it. Just saw your name. Your real name. She reached for the countertop like it could hold her up. I need to know what's going on, Mark said. Because if someone's after you, after us, I can't protect Sophie if I don't know what we're running from. We're not running, she said. Too fast. Then what are we doing, Emily? She didn't answer, because the truth was, she didn't know anymore if they were running, hiding, or circling the same drain. He stared at her, hurt settling into his posture. I love you, he said, quieter now. But you're looking at her like she's not yours. She is mine, Emily snapped. Then why are you afraid of her? Because she didn't know who had held Sophie first. Didn't know what was done in that year she didn't remember. Didn't know if the hands in the drawings were watching from outside or if they lived in Sophie's skin. Mark shook his head and walked toward the stairs. You need to decide what kind of mother you're going to be. She waited until his footsteps faded, then opened the drawer. The photo lay crooked, bent, like truth always was. She stared at it for hours, trying to find something, anything to disprove what she knew. But the smile on his face told her everything. He'd been given something. Not stolen. Given. She shut off all the lights. Sat in Sophie's room as she slept. Held her hand. Watched her chest rise and fall. Soft, steady, innocent, but not untouched. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. She isn't sure anymore if Sophie is safe. The floor still creaked. In the same place, just past the front door, where her mother used to pause with grocery bags and sigh like she'd been holding her breath all day. Emily stepped over that spot without meaning to, like her bones remembered how to move without sound. The air inside the house tasted like mold and mothballs, grief clinging to the corners like old wallpaper. Dust coated everything, but the light still fell through the window in that same late afternoon angle, gold and thin, like it didn't belong here. She hadn't stepped foot in this house since the night she ran. Since the fire at the other house. Since the name Emily Carter began its slow stitching into her skin. She held the old key in her palm, still warm. Brass bent slightly, ribbon tied around it faded lavender. Her mother's favorite scent. A reminder that this house once smelled like laundry and rosewater, not rot. Upstairs, the hallway was smaller than she remembered. Every photo had been taken down, but the outlines remained ghosts of glass and tape. She touched one gently. A square of cleaner wall. A child's height. Her heartbeat. She found the bedroom door already open. The bed stripped. Mattress yellowed. The smell stronger here. Old skin, maybe. Time. There was a mirror leaning against the wall, cracked through the center like a spider web. Her reflection split down the middle. The dresser still stood in its place, heavy and stubborn. Third drawer down, the one that always stuck. She tried it. Stuck. As expected. She reached underneath, feeling for the latch her mother never thought she knew about. Still there. A small metal tab beneath the frame. She pushed it up, pulled out. It opened with a groan, dust rising like breath. Papers. Envelopes, brittle with time, tied together with twine. Her fingers trembled as she undid the knot. Birth certificate, her real one. Name, Evelyn Marie Lorne. Date, January 3rd. But then another, hospital forms. A different name, Claire. Born the same day. She blinked. Heartbeat. 2 names, one date. Next, adoption paperwork. Her name scrawled at the bottom. A signature she didn't remember writing. Below it, a post-it in her mother's handwriting. You chose this. I only helped it happen faster. But the signature on the form didn't match her handwriting. Not then, not now. She flipped through more. A police report. Filed under assault. Location, St. Mary's Women's Shelter. Victim, Evelyn M. Lorne. Accused. Withheld. Report status, closed. Witness unavailable. She touched the words like they might change. If she pressed hard enough. She never filed this. She remembered the night. The bruises, the nurse who asked too many questions. But she didn't speak. She couldn't speak. Someone filed it anyway. Someone with her name, or someone who needed her to vanish. She opened another envelope. Inside, a letter, unsent, dated the week after Sophie was born. Evelyn, they told me you wouldn't remember, that the birth was too traumatic, the drugs too strong. But I kept this just in case. You didn't choose adoption. They forged your signature. You screamed for her. I heard you. You passed out before you could fight. I tried. I swear I tried, but they moved you. Changed everything. Forgive me. And she sat on the edge of the stripped bed. Letter in hand, ribs tight. Only one person signed letters like that. Her aunt. Dead 10 years now. Stroke, they said. But the photo hid something worse. A bottle of pills. Half-finished letter. The guilt traced in her handwriting like someone confessing underwater. The air in the room shifted. Because now, Emily knew she hadn't disappeared alone. Someone helped her, but someone else had erased the trail. She stood, moving back to the dresser, pulling out the rest of the drawer. Taped underneath, another envelope. Heavier. Inside, a USB drive. Labeled not yet in marker. Her mother's handwriting again, silent setup. She slipped it into her pocket. She turned to leave but stopped at the door. A sound, a cough, from downstairs. Heartbeat. She stilled. Footsteps. One set. Slow. She pressed herself against the wall, holding her breath. The footsteps moved through the kitchen. Light, cautious. Then retreating. She crept to the window, peered down through a slit in the curtain. A man getting into a car. She didn't see his face, but she recognized the coat. Gray, worn, corduroy. Her uncle single quotes S. Impossible. Dead. She ran down the stairs too fast. Out the door. The car was gone. Just an oil stain on the driveway and the ghost of tire tracks leading away. She backed into the house, closed the door, locked it. Her fingers traced the edge of the envelope again. Someone had been in this house. Someone had left something. Or taken something. She returned to the drawer. Checked again. Something was missing. The photo. Her, the baby, and someone cut out of the frame. She remembered the torn edge. How her mother always kept it folded behind the others. Gone. Whoever had come knew what mattered. The USB, the letter. The truth. Emily stood in the hallway, surrounded by ghosts and guesses. She'd come here for answers, but all she found were rewritten memories. She wasn't sure who betrayed her, or who saved her. Open when pushed from the left. Nothing. Just one tape. Just that single, awful proof, which meant the rest were missing, or stolen, or destroyed. She sat on the cold concrete, VHS in hand, listening to the quiet hum of the freezer. The tape throbbed in her palm like it had a pulse. There were 12 tapes. She knew that now. One for every month she lived under that roof before the fire. She thought she'd burned them all. Thought the flames ate everything. But clearly, someone saved one. Maybe more. And sent it to her. It had arrived yesterday. No return address. No note. Just a small nondescript box on the porch, placed with care, like it had been delivered by someone who didn't want the mailman involved. She checked the timestamp again, February 13th, and now it was February 10. In 3 days, it would be the anniversary of the day she almost died, of the day she gave birth, of the day she signed a name that wasn't hers and gave a child to people she never saw again. The echo motif returned her name in someone else's mouth. Evelyn. She hadn't heard it in years, but the VHS had whispered it, and now the house wasn't quiet anymore. Not really, because the past had a sound, the soft hiss of tape. Rewinding. The brittle crackle of her own breath on camera. She stood up slowly, joints aching in a way that had nothing to do with age. Then she noticed it. A second envelope. On the kitchen table. One she hadn't seen that morning. She opened it. Inside, a Polaroid. Her and the baby. Not a hospital photo. Not a staged portrait. This was taken through a window. From outside, the baby's face was barely visible, turned toward her chest asleep. She remembered that moment. She'd thought she was safe, then the photo proved otherwise. There was a word scrawled on the back. 10. Tape 10. Gone. But not forgotten. Because someone else still had it, and they wanted her to remember. The first dance smelled like gardenias and cold champagne. Emily had watched the footage before once, maybe twice, in the quiet of the honeymoon haze, when she still believed happy moments deserved to be recorded. But tonight the screen was too sharp, too loud, even though the volume was down. The cursor blinked over a file called Reception Final.mp4. Double quotes. The USB had arrived that morning. No label, no message. Just sealed in a lavender envelope and slipped under the back door. She clicked it open, expecting the same slideshow of smiles and toasts. But the video didn't begin where it should have. It began in the church, before the guests arrived. The camera moved shakily, like it was held at stomach level. A heavy breath punctuated the silence. Then a voice. "This is my family. She just doesn't know it yet." She paused the video. Sweat broke across her spine like someone had placed a cold hand there. She hit play again. The lens followed the pews. A flash of altar cloth, the organist's fingers. Then there he was, standing in the back row. Pale tie, wrinkled jacket, eyes dark under fluorescent lights. Her abuser, not in a single frame. In every one. He never looked directly at the camera, but he hovered like rot beside the dessert table, near the gift pile, by the back doors during her vows. No one saw him. Not Daniel. Not the photographer. Not even her. She pressed pause. Leaned back in the desk chair, hand over her mouth. The dress she wore still hung in the closet upstairs. Pearls sewn into the hem. A single stitch torn at the waist from when Sophie tugged on her mid-toast. She'd thought it tore from love. But the photo hid something worse. In one frame, as she held Sophie mid-spin, he stood behind them, arms crossed, half smiling. Like he'd rehearsed the scene in his mind. Like he believed this was his family. Heartbeat. She scrubbed through the footage. At 42 minutes, during the garter toss, a voice whispered again. "She used to smile like that with me." She shut the laptop. Stood. Walked to the window. The backyard was dark. The swing swayed slightly. Even though the night was windless, she turned on every light in the house. Then went to Sophie's room. Her daughter slept soundly, tangled in a blanket with stars on it. A paper crane dangled from the ceiling, slowly spinning. Emily stared at her face, the slope of her cheek, the curve of her lashes. So much like her. She hadn't saved Sophie. She delayed the danger. She returned to the office, pulled the flash drive out, wrapped it in tissue, stuffed it inside the toe of an old boot in the closet. But the damage wasn't stored there. It was already in her body. In the part of her spine that never healed right. In the molar that cracked when he slammed her head into the dresser. In the scar behind her ear hidden by curls. She packed a duffel bag, quietly. No noise. No panic, just precision. 3 shirts, one of Sophie's stuffed rabbits. The envelope of forged documents she'd kept in the lining of the photo album. New IDs, emergency cash. An old motel keycard from Kansas with the number 17 etched in permanent marker. A symbol she'd promised never to use again. She used it now. She wrapped Sophie in a coat without waking her, carried her down the stairs, careful not to touch the part that creaked, put her in the car seat, strapped her in. One last look at the house. The swing had stopped moving, but the silence wasn't peace. It was the breath before a scream. She drove. No destination. Only distance, only road, only headlights and a paper crane swinging from the rear view. At a red light. She remembered something he once said to her when she tried to leave the first time. You can't run from what lives in your blood. But she wasn't running anymore. She was hunting. The first time he hit her, she told her mother, and her mother said nothing at all. Room 16 smelled like mildew and motor oil. One overhead bulb flickered above the bed, casting jagged shadows across the peeling walls. Emily stood just inside the door, fists clenched around the paper crane pendant at her neck. It cut into her palm. She welcomed the sting. He didn't look up right away. Just sat on the edge of the motel bed, flipping a lighter open and closed. That same damn silver Zippo, the one from their wedding photo. The one he'd used to light birthday candles and cigarettes. And once a fire. Finally he spoke. Didn't think you'd come. I didn't come for you. No, he said, smiling. You came for the tapes. She stepped farther into the room, door swinging shut behind her with a whispering click. She didn't flinch. She wouldn't give him that. They're not about you, you know, he said. Not all of them. He reached under the bed, pulled out a shoebox. Opened it. Tapes, stacked, numbered in red ink. The handwriting made her stomach turn, sharp, precise. Her mother's. He pulled one out. Number 9. He held it like something holy. Want to know what's on it? Emily stared at the plastic. Shell like it might grow teeth. You, he said, and her. Talking in the kitchen. You were 13. She asked if anything happened. You said no. She said, good. Don't make trouble for us, Emmy. The room tilted. I didn't record it, he said. She did. Back when she thought covering for me made her brave. That's not true. He shrugged. Play it. Heartbeat. You're lying. She kept them, he said, leaning forward. She labeled them. She tucked them behind the china cabinet like a will. She was building an alibi. Emily stepped back. You always wanted to believe it was just me, he said. But it never is. People like me, we don't survive unless someone leaves the door unlocked. She reached into her coat pocket, fingers brushing the USB, the silent setup. She'd copied the audio from tape 3. It was already scheduled to upload at midnight. With names, you don't get to frame this, she said. Not anymore, he laughed, low and tired. Still think there's a clean version of this story. You think exposing me fixes you. No, she said, but it frees her. His smile faltered. You haven't seen her, he said, quiet. Now, not really, that child isn't sleeping. She flinches when someone calls your name too loud, and her drawings? Emily's chest caved. You saw her drawings? She mailed one, he said, reaching for his coat. Pulled out a crumpled paper, unfolded it. Held it up, black crayon. A house on fire. A figure standing in the flames. Another watching from far away. A single word in block letters. Mom, you think you saved her, he said. But she knows. Kids always do. The room was too hot. Emily pressed her back against the wall. But the worst part wasn't the tape. It was that voice again. Her mother's, in her head. Stop digging. You're not strong enough for what you'll find. I came here to end this, she said. I'm taking them. He leaned back. You think I care? Take them. Burn them. Send them to the president. They don't unwrite anything. You're wrong. Oh yeah. She stepped forward. They write her future. He went still. And then a flicker. Not rage. Not arrogance. Fear. I lost everything too, Emmy, he said. You think I planned it like this? You think I wanted this life? She stared at him. Really looked. His wrists were thinner than before. His eyes sunken. The anger was still there, but dulled. Like he'd run out of places to aim it. Like it had started turning inward. You wanted control, she said. I wanted someone to stay, he muttered. He set the tape down. Stood slowly. Walked to the mini fridge. Pulled out a flask. Took a sip. You know what I remember? He asked. You aged 10. Reading out loud from that purple Bible, your voice shaking. And afterward, you asked if monsters went to hell. Emily said nothing. You begged me to say no. She turned toward the door. Don't you want to know what she said about you? He called after her. No. She said you were always too soft to survive this world. Emily opened the door. He didn't follow. She drove for an hour without thinking. The road blurred. She stopped at a gas station, parked behind the dumpster. Opened the shoebox. She didn't watch them. She didn't need to. She walked to the edge of the field behind the store. Set the box down. Lit a match. Watched them burn. Smoke curled into the night like breath held. Too long. This ends tonight. One way or another. The porch had collapsed long ago, but the wind still knew how to creak the boards. Emily stood where the steps used to be, one foot on soil, the other in ash. The charred outline of the house still formed its old skeleton, half a wall here, the rusted curve of a bathtub there. Everything blackened, brittle, but the tree was still alive. The one her father planted when she was born. Its bark split from heat, but branches still reached upward like it hadn't witnessed what the others had. She waited. The lighter weighed, heavy in her pocket. Not his, their mother's. The same one she'd used to light the candles each birthday, even when they didn't want to celebrate, even when she wasn't supposed to be home. That was the thing. About memory, it didn't care about logic. The sun dipped behind the woods. Shadows thickened. Crickets. One owl. No headlights yet. Then, gravel. Crunching. A car door closing. She didn't turn around when he approached. Let him stand behind her for a moment too long. You look like her, he said. Emily exhaled slowly. You always start there. He didn't deny it. She turned to face him. His hair had grayed around the temples. Not much, but enough. His jaw was tighter. The smile was gone. In his hand, a manila envelope. You said you had the photos. She nodded toward the scorched foundation. Inside, he hesitated. You're not afraid? I'm done being afraid. He followed her over the rubble, careful, like he didn't trust the ground beneath him. She knew that feeling. She led him to where the kitchen used to be. There was no ceiling, only sky. She gestured to a blackened chair, somehow still standing. He didn't sit. You said it'd just be us. It is. She knelt by a cracked floor tile. Lifted it. Pulled out a tin box. Inside. A flash drive. He watched her place it on the burnt table. I didn't come here for blackmail, he said. I came because you said you needed answers. I said I needed the truth. Same thing. No, the truth doesn't ask permission. Heartbeat. She pressed the lighter into his hand. Recognize it? He stared down, jaw clenched. She kept it, Emily said. Even after the fire, even after she said she never lit it. It was hers, he murmured, before it was ours. That word again, ours. You gave her a choice, Emily said. Me or the name. She chose legacy. She chose silence. He didn't answer. Wind moved through the bones of the house. Do you remember the basement? She asked. He flinched. Not much. But enough. I remember everything, he said. So do I. She pulled her phone from her pocket. Tapped the screen once. The red light blinked. Live. He didn't notice. Not yet. I was 13, she said. Voice steady. You said it was just once. He looked down at the lighter. You said it was a mistake. I didn't. But the photo hid something worse. He looked up. What photo? The one I found in her drawer. Of you, with the others, smiling. His eyes narrowed. You set this up. You set me up, she said. You made me think I broke us. You ran. You built the fire. I was 17, he snapped. I was angry. I was stupid. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean for the house to collapse, she said. But it did. Silence. A long one. I thought I loved you. He said. It was the cruelest thing he could have said. I thought you were the only one who ever saw me. I was a child. I was broken. And I paid for your fractures, she said. He set the envelope down. There's no more to give, Emily. Yes, she said softly. There is. She stepped back and nodded toward her phone. He followed her gaze, saw the red light. You didn't. It's live. His face twisted. Something between rage and pleading. You said this was just for us. It was, she said. Until you started rewriting it. He lunged forward, but stopped himself, because somewhere in him, he knew the world was listening. She stepped closer. You said you remembered everything, she whispered. Then you remember what I sounded like when I begged. He dropped. The lighter. It landed between them. The echo motif. Metal on stone. Heartbeat. He looked up. Voice low. I was a child too, Emily. No, she said. You were a choice. Sirens in the distance. Soft, growing louder. You should run, she said. He didn't move. I stayed once, he said. I can stay again. But now his voice trembled, because staying meant owning. It. She picked up the lighter, tucked it in her pocket. Justice isn't fire, she said. It's oxygen. The sirens screamed closer. He looked at her one last time, not with hate. Not even regret, just exhaustion. Then he turned and walked toward the sound. Emily stood in the ruins of the kitchen. Sky above her, dirt below. The wind moved through her hair for the first time in years. She exhales. She was 13 when she first wrote her name on an envelope and imagined it surviving her. Now she wrote Sophie's name instead. Ink pooled slightly at the edge of the S. Pen bled a little on the paper, like it knew too. Her handwriting had softened over the years, less sharp, less urgent. It looked like someone learning how to be careful. Emily sat by the window, the sun warm on her shoulder, the letter trembling in her lap. The first sentence was the hardest. Sophie. There are things I kept quiet so you could grow loud. The house was still. Not quiet like it had been during the worst parts, hollow and afraid, but settled. The walls no longer listened like spies. The floor no longer winced under footsteps. Even the air seemed to breathe with her now, not against her. Outside, the mailbox flag was still up. She hadn't lowered it in days. Some part of her wasn't ready to let anything else in. Mark had texted that morning. No pressure. Just coffee? For Sophie's sake. It was the first time in 2 years he hadn't used a lawyer's tone. She folded the letter carefully, slid it into the envelope, but didn't seal it yet. She needed to add one more thing, not the full story. Just the moment. Sophie would someday ask about the fire. The question had already begun forming behind her daughter's eyes. Emily saw it whenever they passed a bonfire or lit a birthday candle. A flicker of recognition. Fear where there should have been wonder. Heartbeat. She opened the old jewelry box on the desk. The paper crane pendant rested on top. Its wings slightly bent from years pressed against her chest. She set it next to the envelope. Then pulled out the photograph. The one she'd almost thrown away. Her, Sophie, and Mark taken the day they bought this house. Sophie still had cake on her nose. Mark's hand rested on Emily's shoulder. Back then it felt like comfort. Now she wasn't sure. But the photo hid something worse. In the reflection behind them, a face. Not her abuser. Not her mother. Emily. Herself. Staring straight into the lens. Expressionless. Like even then. She'd known joy wasn't permanent. She tore the photo in half, gently. Kept the half with Sophie. Let the other fall into the fireplace. She didn't light it yet. The letters came next. 1 for the court, terminating the last name. 1 for mark unsigned. 1 for herself dated, but left blank inside. She put them all in the drawer beside the couch. Locked it. Taped the key underneath the table. The silent setup. She'd leave it there until Sophie was old enough to ask for answers instead of bedtime stories. The knock at the door was soft. Mark. He stood holding 2 paper cups, sleeves still on. She almost didn't open it, but she did. He looked older, paler, but not small. She stepped aside. He entered without assuming. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. I brought the cinnamon one, he said. She nodded, didn't drink. How's she doing? He asked. She's drawing again, Emily said. But quieter. He looked down, rubbed the sleeve of his jacket. I know I can't undo anything. No, she said. But you can stop hiding behind what you didn't do. That landed. He looked up. I should have believed you the first time, he said. I should have believed myself. Silence stretched between them like a rope neither wanted to pull. He reached into his pocket. A folded page. Sophie's handwriting. She'd drawn them, Mark, Emily, and herself. But the arms were too long, reaching. I think she still wants us, he said. I think she wants the idea of us. He placed the drawing on the table. I'm not asking to come back, he said. Just to come through. When it matters. The emotional reversal tightened her chest. There was a time she would have screamed yes, then a time she would. Ve burned that drawing. Now she simply nodded. For her. For her, he echoed. He stood to leave but paused. I kept the letters. He said, What letters? You used to write them. When things were bad, you never sent them. But I found them after you left. In the drawer behind the dishes. Emily stared at him. I read every one, he said. Then I wrote one back. Never mailed it. You could have. I thought you needed silence more than closure. Heartbeat. She watched him leave, didn't follow, didn't cry. She went to the fireplace. Dropped the torn half of the photo. Lit the match. Watched it curl to black. Sophie's half remained framed on the mantel. Now. No shadow in that one. Just a girl mid-laugh, crumbs on her cheek, eyes unafraid. Emily returned to the letter. Wrote one last line. You are not the fire. You are the hand that walked me out of it. She sealed the envelope. Put the crane pendant inside, then slid it into the box marked for when. She isn't the woman she was. She never will be. She used to whisper it to herself under the covers. Emily Turner. Emily Turner. Emily Turner. It felt like a spell. One syllable for every bruise she hid. She used to count them like stars. Now the name sat on her desk in brushed gold, engraved in capital letters on a glass plaque. Miss Turner, not Mrs., not ma'am, not victim. And definitely not what he used to call her when he was angry. The door to the support center opened with a soft chime. Second Tuesday. Always slow, but that was okay. Some pain needs quiet to feel safe. The front room was small, 3 chairs. A coffee maker that groaned like it had trauma of its own. A coat rack still missing 1 peg. The walls held no framed quotes, no false promises. Just warmth. She folded a paper crane while she waited. Habit now. The same kind she used to hang above Sophie's crib. The wings never stayed even, but they didn't have to. They still flew. She tucked the crane beside the others in a glass bowl. 17 now. 1 for each woman who had sat in that chair, unsure if speaking would make them disappear. Some had cried. Some had laughed in that sharp, broken way that says, I'm not okay. But I remember being human. Some had left and never returned. But none had left unacknowledged. She pulled a file from the drawer. Case number 41. The name still read, Jane Doe, but she knew her real name now. It was in the letter, written in slanted pencil, mailed with no return address. You said a name can be armor. Mine's full of holes, but I'm ready to wear it again. Emily had wept the first time she read that line. Quietly, fiercely, the echo motif, names returned like lost daughters. She stood, smoothed her blouse, walked to the mirror in the hall. Her reflection met her without flinching. There were fine lines around her eyes now. Not from grief. From survival. She adjusted her necklace. The chain was new, but the pendant wasn't a rusted key. The one her mother used to wear. The key that never opened anything in their home, no matter how many locks Emily tried. But the photo hid something worse. In that same drawer, where the key had been, she'd once found a receipt. Gasoline Rope Motel. All dated 2 weeks before her father vanished. Her mother had claimed he abandoned them. Maybe he did, but someone planned for more than absence. Emily tucked the key under her collar. Not as a charm. As a warning. The buzzer clicked. She pressed. The Isacom. Yes? Hi. I'm not sure if I'm in the right place. You are, Emily said, voice steady. The door unlocked with a hum. She waited by the entrance. The woman who entered wore sunglasses, though it was cloudy. She had a child with her, maybe 5, maybe 6. The child clutched a toy with one ear missing. Emily knelt, smiled at the girl. We have cocoa inside, if you want. The child nodded. The mother lingered. This isn't a shelter, she said. I thought it was. But the address, I don't. No, I'm sorry. You're not wrong, Emily said. It's just not that kind of shelter. The woman looked at the nameplate. Her mouth twitched. Turner? She asked. Like the fire? Emily didn't blink. Yes, like the fire. The woman nodded, as if remembering something whispered in a courtroom. I used to think it was your fault. A lot of people did, was it? Emily didn't answer, not out of shame, but because the question no longer mattered. My name isn't what I told them it was, the woman said. I didn't want him to be able to find me. You want to tell it now? The woman paused. Then, Jasmine, it came out soft. Not weak, like the word had been hibernating. Emily offered her hand. Nice to meet you, Jasmine. They sat. The cocoa steamed gently. The child dozed on a beanbag chair shaped like a turtle. Jasmine spoke in fits and starts. About broken phones, a gas station near the border, a sister who wouldn't answer anymore. Emily didn't take notes. Some stories aren't for paper. When Jasmine paused, Emily offered a folder. Inside, a prepaid phone, a blank journal, and a photograph. A woman standing beside a courthouse, holding up a new ID, her smile bruised, but proud. On the back, scribbled in blue ink, tell her she saved me, even if she never calls back. Emily closed the folder, set it gently on Jasmine's lap. It's not much, she said. It's more than I thought existed. The clock struck 5. Outside, the sky went gold with late sun. A shadow passed over the desk, not a person. Just the light changing. The nameplate. Glint Ed. Miss Turner. No one would call it a monument. But it was. A name built back from ash. She waited. And now it's their turn. She was 5 the first time. She asked if bad people lived forever. Now Sophie sat cross-legged in the same room where the question had hung, unanswered, a decade ago. The community center still smelled like lemon wood polish and warm paper. Outside, rain traced slow paths down the tall glass windows, as if the sky itself had started remembering. She held the letter with both hands, edges worn soft from time. Her mother's name was inked in tight script on the corner. E. Turner. Not Carter. Not the name someone else had given her. The one she reclaimed. A quiet gathered around the circle of chairs. 7 women. 1 teenage girl. All listening. Sophie cleared her throat. Her voice had only just begun to settle into something steady. It cracked sometimes, but tonight it didn single quotes t. She read, Sophie, if you're reading this, it means I believed you would. And I believe you now. The room didn't breathe. There are stories you were born into, and there are stories you get to choose. I didn't get to choose mine, but I chose what to do with it. That choice saved me. That choice made you. Sophie blinked hard. Didn't stop. On the desk behind her, the nameplate still read Miss Turner. The letters hadn't faded, they deepened. Like they were pressed into something permanent. Heartbeat. She continued. You might hear things one day. That I was quiet too long. That I ran. That I burned bridges. But bridges built on silence deserve fire. The women around her were all different kinds of tired. A mother with a bruise hiding under concealer. A grandmother who hadn't spoken in the first 3 meetings. A woman who still brought her toddler because she had no one to watch her. They were here because of the letter Sophie held. Because someone made a space and filled it with proof that survival wasn't shameful. She turned the page. Another letter. Clipped behind. Not written in her mother's hand. Typed. Stamped. Legal. The court order that restored Emily's birth name. The one she'd laminated like a relic and hidden in the drawer. Marked when Sophie's ready. She was ready. She held it up. Without speaking, the women passed it around. Even the grandmother's hand trembled when she touched it. Then Sophie pulled out the last thing, a scarf. Faded blue with stitched vines along the hem. The one her mother used to wear on days she testified. Sophie had thought it was for fashion, but it wasn't. It had belonged to Emily's mother. And her mother before that. But the photo hid something. Worse. In the corner of that scarf stitched by hand, almost invisible, was a name that wasn't Turner. It had taken Emily a decade to stitch over it. And even then, the thread never quite matched. You kept the original, someone said softly. Sophie nodded. I think she wanted to remember what she'd survived by. The room went quiet again. Outside, the streetlight buzzed on. Yellow glow across the window pane. Sophie walked to the wall near the entrance. Tacked the letter there. Beneath the others, there were dozens now, from other women. Some signed, some not. A wall of voices that once lived in silence. One stood out typed on a torn receipt. Someone had written only 3 words. He doesn't win. Emotional reversal. Strength. Didn't look like shouting. It looked like showing up. It looked like whispering through scarred lips and being heard. Anyway, Sophie turned back to the group. He was never just one person, she said. He was every time we weren't believed. Every time we were told to be smaller, quieter, safer. But she didn't shrink. A woman wiped her eyes with her sleeve. I used to think bravery was loud, Sophie added. But my mother taught me it's the kind of quiet that doesn't ask permission. She didn't say her mother had died, because in this room, she hadn't. Not really. The desk still held her pen. The windows still bore her fingerprints. And the women still said her name like a prayer. Emily Turner. Emily Turner. But not. All the letters were meant to be read. 1-Y, ELLOWED, and sealed was labeled only. For the day she says yes, Sophie hadn't opened it. Not yet. She had to guess what was inside. Maybe it was a photo of them. Before everything. Or a map of the land Emily bought after the trial. Just a field then. But a foundation now. Or maybe it was empty. A way to say, the rest of this story is yours to write. She tucked it back into the drawer. Closed it softly. She glanced one more. Time at the nameplate. Not for validation. Not for legacy. Just to remember. To witness what happens when a name survives the storm. She stepped outside. The rain had stopped, but the sidewalk still shimmered with it. She walked home barefoot, scarf around her neck, soaked through, but she didn't flinch. She waited. And now it's their turn.